Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Ben Van Hoek of Chelsea Football. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Doing well, Casey. How about you?
Doing well. We are officially in the dead period week. Of course, no activity going on. Coaches and players are doing their own thing, and usually a bunch of players take a bunch of vacations because it's full go until the season start. From now, when next week begins, until pretty much when the season ends. So what has it been like for you to just to get this time off, and how have the first few weeks been in June?
We've had a great few first weeks. New team. We're gonna have some younger players and some players from different states and different parts of the state coming in to play for the program. So it's been good to kind of get to know the new team, kind of create a new team identity, and really get after it in the weight room. And the time off's great. You got to rest. Rest just as important as doing the work, but also some student run physical activity, stuff like that. Just always staying ready.
What have you been doing this week? I know a lot of players like to get a last minute vacation in, or just continue to improve themselves. So what have you been up to this week, Ben?
Yeah, we've been doing some player led running and player led, a little maybe throwing practice and some skill work. But other than that, just resting, getting ready for July 4th, ready to have a great second half of the summer. Get after it.
Yeah, the fun starts I believe July 7th, so it'll be there, and then official practices I think start on like August 11th or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, football will be here before you know it. So yeah, I'm talking to all of you in the audience too. So let's talk about last year. I know, a lot of change, anytime that there's a new coach, there's always going to be the transition period and all that. And then you guys had another successful season, winning the division. Um, what was last year like for you guys, with a new coach, with Coach Dean coming in, and now this year, now that everyone knows everything now. He knows you guys know him. What has it been like compared to last year? Just you don't have to do the intro parts anymore, and now we're off and running.
Yeah, it feels like the team's moving a lot faster. We got into practice and having a coach in the winter this year was really huge because we were able to, get after it a little bit more and, install some stuff and whatnot and do some like uh, classroom learning as opposed to just trying to get to know coach. And we didn't have a coach until like December last year, so obviously the process is everything but football. That stuff is expedited. So it's been great to be able to have a coach for the full off season. And obviously he's a great coach. He definitely knows what he's doing. So it's great to kind of like get more information out of him and more knowledge. And obviously he's leaving his fingerprint even more on the program. So it's been really good to kind of get the team off and moving this winter.
Yeah, and also a lot of people didn't know he was actually, still trying to, move out of one state and move into another. So obviously that also is tough as well. But but this year, what has it been like just to come off a successful season just as a player? Like, what have you focused on since last season ended? What did you want to improve on as we go upon the 2025 school season?
Yeah, obviously, for us, the season last year is successful and unsuccessful in ways. It kind of like ever since we won the state championship, the standard was, winning districts, winning regionals, but uh, did not pick up on that standard again. Obviously, something we're looking to work towards, build towards, complete this year. And but I mean, it was a successful season last year, winning the SEC. That's something that you can't take for granted, and you know. So it's been good to get back and work on those goals with the team. And, me personally, just kind of getting the recruitment going a little bit in the winter and then in the spring here. But other than that, just, getting ready, skill work, lifting weights, gaining weight, all that stuff.
What do you think the biggest improvement you've made so far this summer? What do you think that has been?
Yeah, definitely probably just getting faster. I think that speaks to our entire team as well. We've definitely gotten a lot faster. Everybody's improving in their own ways, but me personally, just I think that was one of my biggest weaknesses last year. I wasn't the fastest guy on the field, wasn't the most fluid, but really improving on that, I think, is what helped my recruitment pick up. And then obviously, I think it'll help me my on-field performance pick up in the fall.
Yeah. So so going into the season, one of the biggest things you talked about recruitment and all that other stuff. You don't have to worry about that going into the season anymore because you just recently announced where you're going to be heading in the next 4 years. So why don't you tell everybody where you're going?
Yeah, going to Cornell next or in 2 years, so that'll be it's really exciting. Good to get that weight off my shoulders. That was sooner than I expected. I kind of expected to have to make a decision or still be looking for options into August and maybe even after the season. But obviously, getting that decision out of the way, I can really focus on just our team and our team's success um, come the fall.
Yeah. Just to correct me if I'm wrong. You're a senior this coming season,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
26. Yeah.
So why Cornell?
You know, they got on me fast. They recruited me real fast. They offered me and had me on an OB the next weekend, and got to meet all the coaches. And I think they're a really great program. I know they're not historically the best program in the Ivy, but I think Coach Swanstrom's coming in, turning things around. Uh, and then they've got great academics, obviously, top 10 engineering school in the country. So great opportunity to better myself in football and in academics.
So, going in, being a senior this year, knowing that this is your last go around at this, like this last year playing high school football, what has that crossed your mind yet? Like, I only got one more year left of this.
Yeah, for sure, a little bit, but I don't really like to live like that. I kind of like to keep the mindset of just attack everything 100%, regardless of circumstances.
Right.
So I think it's helped me step into maybe a little bit more of a leadership role, but besides that, not much changes my preparation for the season.
Right. Um, of course, going in, this has been a program that's had a lot of success, really the past couple of decades. What would it be like? What is it going to take to have a successful season this year for this team?
You know, uh, I think we've got all the tools, we've got all the pieces. I think we have all the dudes, and we have obviously the coach and Coach Dean really knows what he's talking about. And we've got Coach Fanning, our defensive coordinator, who also is one of the best in the business. So I think with the staff that we have and the players we have, it's just going to take, repeated showing up, putting in the work. It's going to take a really good 2 weeks in August, 3 weeks there. And then I think, especially for the new players, and we have some new players coming in, but we're really good athletes, but kind of new to football. I think that first scrimmage and that first game or two are going to really be instrumental to kind of seeing how the season will go.
Usually by week three, coaches know, what they have. So it's always,
Yeah,
you got to get used to they always say you gotta crawl before you walk, and then you gotta walk before you run, and you gotta take those gradual steps. It's like putting on the full pads. Like
yeah,
you're just in helmets, and then you're in shells, and then you're in full pads at the end of the week. Um,
yeah,
so you're a defensive end, correct?
yep.
So have you always played that position growing up, or did you play any others, or did you just feel comfortable there?
Yeah, so when Chelsea we start tackle football in seventh grade. So I've played defensive end for this will be year six now, and in middle school I played like wide receiver on offense. Wasn't really my fit for my body type or my athleticism at the time. I mean, so I think defensive end's the right spot for me.
Yeah. Um, and then just and last thing I'll ask, how do you like mentally get ready for a game?
Um, I think it starts the week before. I think we come in the morning on Saturday and we watch that film, but then and we watch that game film. Then after we leave that team meeting room, you gotta get ready to go watching your opponent scout. And I think film's one of the biggest pieces for me. Just watching my guy, watching their formation, watching their plays, trying to be able to see what I can key for the guy across from me, but see what I can also key for the defense so that we can know what's coming at us. And then I think, night before, get a good night's sleep. I'm big on nutrition, so I think obviously eating the right way in the coming week, and then getting ready to go that game day. Just locking in.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to know you a little bit. How about that?
Sure, sure.
You mentioned nutrition, like, it's it's making sure you're eating the right things, but it's all broken down to, eating the right stuff, but also eating the right proteins and, when to eat, doing everything at the same time. What's that like for you, and how have you kind of, because I've, work in different development stuff and all that, learning about all these different programs and stuff. But what's it like, and how important is, the nutrition side, because it does get overlooked.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think it's probably the thing that has gotten to me where I am the most. Combined with it, like if you combine that with the weight room and sleep, it's that's a recipe for success, and
Right.
not just in football and like all sports. And I think it comes down to like eating the right amount and then eating the right things. And I think those are two separate things, and people can do one and not the other, and that's a big mistake. And I think making sure to track your calories so that you know you're eating the right amount. If you're, say, gaining weight, losing weight, but then also eating the right stuff, so you're gaining the right weight, losing the right weight. I think it's a big key,
Yeah.
making sure you're on top of both of those things.
You mentioned sleep too. That also is another thing that goes unnoticed. Are are you making sure, like, do you go to bed at the same exact time every night, or getting up at the same time every night, making sure you're getting 9 hours and all that?
Yeah, for me, and excuse me if I sound a little nerdy here, but I'm a future Ivy League guy, but
Right.
I like to make sure my circadian rhythm's in check. I try to cut off blue light before 9 o'clock. That's the hope most nights. So it's
Right.
I turn red lights on in my room, and the goal is to be asleep by 10, but sometimes with a heavy schedule, that's hard to do. And obviously, depending on the circumstances, if we have early summer workouts, I'm not sleeping in as much, but ready for a school day, I try to sleep as late as possible and have stuff ready the night before. So I'm getting a full goal is like 8.5 to 9.5 hours, somewhere in there. Don't always hit it, but that's always the goal.
It's okay to be nerdy. We've all watched The Big Bang Theory, so that's all
Yeah,
good there. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I had to I had to throw that in there too. In terms of, like, you know, let's see, working out and like doing the right work, like what are some of the things that you really just like focus on when it comes to, like, whether it's weights, whether it's on the treadmill, whether it's on the exercise bike or whatever, like how do you pick like different things to, what's right for you as you try to get ready for whatever activity that you do?
Yeah, honestly, I try to learn about it as much as I can, and I consider myself to be kind of knowledgeable about it, but I leave it up to our strength coaches. We got, three guys with their CSCS in the weight room every day. And I
Mhm.
don't know if you've checked out our weight room, but it's pretty sweet. I think it's the best high school weight room in the state. But we got some really, really smart people who really, really know what they're doing
Yeah.
in the weight room. And so, and they'll tailor your plan for whether you're in season or out of season. So, if you're looking to gain strength, get fast when you're out of season, or just try to maintain, stay healthy while you're in season, they really know what they're talking about. So, combining that with gaining weight and getting faster in the off season, I think that's the biggest key there.
Yeah. That sounds good. I mean, schools are getting more invested in that, not just with trainers, but even nutritionists are coming
Yeah.
in and doing all that stuff. I mean, it's as the world is there's so many temptations out there to you know, to to gain weight and all that stuff. It's important to make sure you're doing the right things so you can live a very long and healthy life. Um, outside of football, what do you like to do?
I'm a baseball guy, but I think I kind of separate my strength training from football, and so in that sense, I kind of like consider myself like a fitness guy. I love strength training just as its own thing. I
Yeah.
kind of try to, in my own mind, separate it. So I like doing that, and doing extra. Uh, I during the school year, I'm pretty busy because I take a lot of APs, so
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of time, but just hanging out with friends, stuff like that. I fish kind of casually. I'm
Okay.
not a wouldn't call myself an expert, but
Yeah.
do that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And finally, like what's an interesting fact people may not know about you?
Oh geez. There's a lot, but I guess so I'm our student council president at our high school, so
Okay.
that's one of my biggest interests. I love doing stuff like that, and especially when we get to do like opportunities where we work with like Mott's Children's Hospital. So
Right.
that's like one of my favorite things to do, and so I guess that's an interesting fact that I'm part of that.
It's awesome. All right. All right, Ben. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this and best of luck this upcoming football season.
Thank you, Casey.